Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Carruthers. I'm the Executive Director of the State Council on Developmental Disabilities. So glad you have joined today. This is the pre-bidders call for the Cycle 45 grants, and I am just giving a few moments for people to continue to join. It's nice to see everyone. Good to see those who came on camera. Hello, appreciate it. Also those waves too, that's great. Those off camera, hello, glad you're here too. It looks like we have stabilized with the number of people who are joining, about 45 people. Thank you so much for coming. And we'll begin. Hi, I'm Carruthers. I'm the Executive Director of the State Council on Developmental Disabilities. And I am systems of people sort of helping in the background support this call. Have just asked me if I want to be spotlighted when I'm talking. Yes, please. So we've muted everybody just to help keep background noise to a minimum. But we will take people off of mute when we get to the Q&A section. The intention of this call is to go over the State Council on Developmental Disabilities Cycle 45 request for proposals. I'll refer to that just simply as the RFP. We'll go over the RFP, the process, and specifically how you can apply. There's a clarification that I'll mention several times throughout this call. That clarification is really everything you need to know about this RFP and the requirements for your application can be found within the request for proposal announcement itself. And that's published on the State Council for Developmental Disabilities website. If someone would please put that link in the chat, that would be helpful. Thank you. This call is meant to provide an overview of the program and highlight important program elements and application details. This call is not meant and should not be used for or as a replacement for reading and studying the request for proposals itself. This call is nothing more than a high-level summary of the request for proposal. The RFP is whole, it is complete, and it is authoritative by its very definition. But let's walk through and give you an overview of this call. So disclaimer aside, you got that. Let's do an overview of this call. This call is scheduled to last for 60 minutes, so 10:30 to 11:30. It's being recorded so that we may post it on our website. After approximately 45 minutes, we'll begin questions. I'll go over what's already been asked up to today and the answers that are posted on the SCDD website. After that, we'll unmute you and begin taking additional questions. And I'll do that starting with the north of the state and progressing through the south. So just as a reminder, questions may be submitted to SCDD up until April 25th, and answers to all questions will be posted on the SCDD website on an ongoing basis until April 30th. If you have questions as we progress through the call, please write them down. And if you don't hear an answer along the way, then feel free to either ask at the end of the call or submit them in writing via the RFP guideline to Christy Allensworth. So again, the intention of this call is to provide guidance for you, potential applicants. I'll make references to handouts that are taken from the SCDD website, and the number referenced is the same number next to the item on the grant information page. So for example, number 1 is the proposed checklist. Number 2 is the project narrative. Number 3 is the project data sheet. Number 4 is the budget detail sheet. Number 5 is the Exhibit A, California poverty levels. Number 6 is Exhibit B, SCDD performance measures. And number 7 is the previously asked questions and answers. I'll be referring to these as we walk through the call together. Let's get on to the purpose of the Cycle 45 funding. So the California State Council on Developmental Disabilities is created in both federal and state law to ensure that the rights of people with intellectual or other developmental disabilities are protected and upheld through systemic change. The council advocates, promotes, and implements policies and practices that achieve self-determination, independence, productivity, and inclusion in all aspects of community life. It does this work through 12 regional offices, a list of which you can find on the council's website, and one headquarters office located in Sacramento, which is where I'm joining you from now. The purpose of our Cycle 45 RFP is to fund new and innovative projects that address one or more of the goals or objectives of our state plan. New and innovative is a new promising practice that'll be created, a promising practice that will be improved or supported, or a best practice that will be created, improved, or supported. The grant funding is just one vehicle used by the council to meet its obligations to Congress under the federal plan. So program overview for Cycle 45 grant funding. The State Council has allotted a total of $20,000 per regional office catchment area for one or more projects serving California to be awarded in Cycle 45. Projects will start October 1st, 2022 and end on September 30th, 2023. Proposals must meet the needs and intent outlined in the project description section of the RFP. Proposals submitted must serve individuals who meet the federal definition of an intellectual or developmental disability. And proposals must be consistent with all applicable federal, state, and local government laws and regulations. Proposals must also be complete, including all required attachments. Let's talk about eligibility. Who's eligible? Entities or individuals with a taxpayer ID and that can provide the required fiscal assurances and that meet all the requirements of the RFP. There are some funding restrictions, so you'll want to see what's allowable and non-allowable expenses. That's contained within the RFP. If you have questions, please submit them in accordance with the RFP guidelines. The evaluation criteria tells you as the applicant what the elements will be scored for each criteria area. It's very important that you read this as it provides you a rubric for what the scoring team will be looking at. So be sure to read this, of course, along with all other sections of the RFP thoroughly. If you need information about the catchment areas for each regional office, please visit our website at www.scdd.ca.gov and click the regional office tab. That website link is in the chat. Please repost it for people who have joined since the link was put into the chat. I want to describe for you now what are the goals for each of the 12 regional offices. So starting with our North Coast Regional Office, this region serves the counties of Del Norte, Humboldt, Mendocino, and Lake. So if you're calling in from one of those counties, the goal for that region is education, capacity building, underserved population, tribal communities. Let me give you a description. So SCDD acknowledges there have been barriers in providing culturally competent, accessible, free and accessible public education information to California's diverse tribal communities. And in that region, we're seeking a trusted entity, it could be an agency or a group, a team, or an individual within a tribal community to provide training, technical assistance, and support to build capacity in families and children with IDD who are eligible for receiving special education services within a least restrictive setting. So that's the description. If you are in the Del Norte, Humboldt, Mendocino, or Lake counties, those are the counties for our catchment area for the North Coast region, and that's a description of the goals for that region, looking to partner with the tribal community who has connections that can improve access for families who are receiving special education services. Moving on to our next region, and we'll do this, there's 12 regions. We've got one down, I'll describe 11 more. The next one is the North State region. Those counties served in the North State are Butte, Tehama, Plumas, Lassen, Glenn, Modoc, Shasta, Siskiyou, and Trinity. So if you're calling in from one of those counties, here's the description of what we're looking for from that region. It's around health and safety. SCDD acknowledges there have been barriers for individuals and families with intellectual and developmental disabilities in obtaining accessible health information, navigating health systems, and/or communicating effectively with medical, dental, and other health personnel. So we're seeking an entity to improve communication tools. Those tools could be standardized checklist, plain language description of common medical resources, conditions, terms, communication, diagnostic, treatment, care, tips. We're looking those types of communication tools for individuals and families with intellectual and developmental disabilities and the healthcare professionals that serve them. So again, if you are looking, you're in a project area for Butte, Tehama, Plumas, Lassen, Glenn, Modoc, Shasta, Siskiyou, and Trinity. We're looking for a project there to build communication tools for families and healthcare professionals. Moving to the next region. That's two, we're on to the third. For the Sacramento Regional, that serves anyone in the counties for Alpine, El Dorado, Nevada, Placer, Sacramento, Sutter, Yolo, and Yuba. In those counties, we're looking also for some health information. The State Council on Developmental Disabilities is seeking a culturally competent entity to provide curriculum and resources. For example, tip sheets, one-page information sheets, personnel, safety identification cards, can provide curriculum, resources, training, skill acquisition, and opportunities for participant preparation and practice in order to effectively interact and communicate with first responders. Priority will be given to a project that focuses on underserved populations in urban and/or rural settings. So if you're, again, to recap, if you're calling in from the counties of Alpine, El Dorado, Nevada, Placer, Sacramento, Sutter, Yolo, or Yuba counties, what we're looking for is a project from that area that creates curriculum or resources about effectively interacting and communicating with first responders. Also, a priority will be given to projects that focus on underserved populations, which could be in urban or rural settings. Next region, North Bay Regional Office, which serves the counties of Solano, Sonoma, and Napa. What we're looking for here is health and early identification and intervention. So the State Council on Developmental Disabilities acknowledges that families with at-risk infants and toddlers in underserved populations are in need of timely resources and information. They also need diagnostic, referral, early intervention, and related support services. So the state SCDD is seeking a culturally competent entity to develop and provide curriculum, resources, outreach, training, skill acquisition, and technical assistance for underserved families of at-risk infants or toddlers and the health and daycare professionals that serve them in the North Bay Regional area. So again, that's a project, to summarize, that's a project for people in Solano, Sonoma, and Napa counties to develop curriculum, resources, trainings, technical assistance to help families with at-risk infants and toddlers do early identification and intervention that will also help health and daycare professionals that serve these families. Moving on to the next region. Next region, we're going north to south, and the next on our list is the Bay Area region. The counties served in the Bay Area region are Marin, San Francisco, Contra Costa, Alameda, and San Mateo. If you were calling in from these counties, we're looking for a project around employment. So the State Council on Developmental Disabilities is seeking a culturally, ethnically, linguistically competent entity to develop and provide curriculum, resources, training, and skill acquisition and for job placement opportunities. So we're looking to address job seekers with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their experience targeting unemployment, underemployment, and pandemic-related layoffs. So to summarize again, if you are calling in from the Marin, San Francisco, Contra Costa, Alameda, and San Mateo counties, we're looking for a project there that's going to look at employment for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. These approaches need to be culturally, ethnically, and linguistically competent and could provide curriculum, resources, and training to help job seekers. The next region is North Valley Hills, moving back inland from the coast. The counties in the North Valley Hills region are Amador, Calaveras, San Joaquin, Tuolumne, and Stanislaus. The State Council on Developmental Disabilities is seeking a culturally competent entity to develop a service resource toolkit, technical assistance, or training to assist families or individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities in understanding tenant and housing rights, as well as subsidized housing programs, about obtaining independent living services or supported living services, and exploring a variety of housing options, including home ownership. So to summarize again, the project that we're looking for in the Amador, Calaveras, San Joaquin, Tuolumne, and Stanislaus counties is a housing project that's going to help people obtain housing, either rental or ownership, and obtain any needed services to succeed in that housing setting. The next region is the Central Coast region, back over from inland over back to the coast. The counties there are Santa Clara, Monterey, Santa Barbara, Ventura, Santa Cruz, San Benito, and San Luis Obispo counties. In this stretch of coastal area of California, we're looking for a project that is around the self-determination program. So the State Council on Developmental Disabilities is invested in ensuring that all Californian families and individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities have access to generic and developmental supports and services that are necessary to living full, independent lives in communities of their choosing. The Council is seeking a culturally competent entity to develop a service resource toolkit and identify and engage culturally, ethnically, linguistically diverse families and individuals with IDD in a cohort-based classes, workshops, or mentoring groups for the purpose of providing training, facilitation, coaching, planning, leadership, and self-determination opportunities, which could be technical assistance and resource referral information about the developmental disabilities and service system in one or more focus areas, and including generic or community-based supports and services. So to summarize, if you are calling in from the counties of Santa Clara, Monterey, Santa Barbara, Ventura, Santa Cruz, San Benito, or San Luis Obispo, we're looking for ideas that are culturally, ethnically, linguistically competent to target families who have need access to the self-determination and generic resources in those counties. The next region is the Sequoia region. The counties for the Sequoia region are Mariposa, Merced, Madera, Fresno, Kings, Tulare, and Kern counties. In this area, we're looking for a project around health and safety. The State Council on Developmental Disabilities is invested in ensuring that adults with intellectual developmental disabilities have the information and skills to engage in healthy, safe, personal, and social relationships, and engage in appropriate, safe interactions in public and work environments. The council is seeking a culturally competent entity to identify, use best or promising practices to provide information, training, guidance, and resources about reproductive health, sexuality, safe relationships, healthy relationships, and internet safety to adults with IDD in the, again, this is in the Sequoia region. Priority will be given to projects that focus on underserved populations, which could be in urban or rural settings. So again, to summarize, if you're looking for a project in any one of these counties, Mariposa, Merced, Madera, Fresno, Kings, Tulare, or Kern counties, we're looking for projects around healthy relationships. Into the next region, Los Angeles. Los Angeles serves one county, that's the Los Angeles County. If you're calling in from that county, the State Council on Developmental Disabilities is invested in ensuring that all Californians, California families and individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities have access to generic and developmental supports and services that are necessary to living full, independent lives in communities of their choosing. Here we're looking for a program around self-determination. So we're seeking a culturally competent entity to develop and pilot an innovative program for providing trained and experienced direct service providers to the self-determination program participants. Priority will be given to replicable projects that focus on economically, culturally, ethnically, and linguistically underserved populations. So again, if you're looking for a project within Los Angeles County, the council is looking for a project that'll promote self-determination, specifically linking experienced direct service providers to self-determination program participants, with a priority given to projects that focus on economically, culturally, ethnically, and linguistically underserved populations. Moving to Orange County. Orange County serves one county, that's Orange County itself and all the cities within. The council is, here we're looking for a project on housing. The council is seeking a culturally competent idea to develop a service resource toolkit, technical assistance and training to assist families and individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities in understanding tenant and housing rights, as well as subsidized housing programs as needed, and exploring a variety of housing options, including home ownership. In this idea, similar to the other housing idea, looking for people who are able to build in independent living services or supporting living services as needed. And by building in, I mean obtaining those services as needed. Again, if you're looking for a project within the Orange County region, we're looking for a project related to housing, obtaining rental or home ownership, obtaining subsidized housing, and obtaining any support services that are needed to be successful living independently in the housing. The next region is the San Bernardino Regional Office. And here, these counties that are in this region are Mono, Inyo, San Bernardino, and Riverside counties. For this area, we're looking for a project around safety. So the State Council on Developmental Disabilities is seeking an entity to identify, improve, and/or demonstrate tools for individuals and families with intellectual and developmental disabilities and the mental health care professionals that serve them. The pilot project will serve as a replicable model for other regions throughout the state, using demonstrated best or promising practices to provide effective, culturally competent outreach, information, training, and/or support to mental health practitioners for individuals and families with intellectual and developmental disabilities. To summarize, I said this was a safety project. This is a health project. My apologies. So if you are in the counties of Mono, Inyo, San Bernardino, or Riverside counties and looking for a project there, we're looking for a project around mental health and mental wellness and strategies to effectively work with mental health practitioners and individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities or their families. The last region is San Diego Regional Office. In that region, the counties served are San Diego and Imperial. Project we're looking for there is around education and service rights. The council is seeking a trusted entity within a tribal community to provide training, technical assistance, information or resources, and support to build capacity in families and children with intellectual and developmental disabilities who are eligible for receiving developmental disability related or special education services within the least restrictive environment. So to summarize on that project, if you are looking for a project within the San Diego or Imperial region, the council is looking for a project related to partner with a tribal community who has connections to help families around special education. That's a description of the 12 regions and the 12 projects that we're looking for in each of those 12 regions. Let me back up and talk about information to apply to everybody, and that's the criteria for evaluating any proposal that comes in. Each eligible proposal will be scored like this. A maximum of 120 points may be awarded by each member of the review team. Scores will be around the project description, the state plan, the target population, evaluation and reporting, the deliverables or outputs themselves, the methodology, whether or not it's targeted for diversity or disparities, the budget, the bidder's knowledge and experience, whether the idea is innovative or creative. So let me go back and tell you more about each of those areas. First scoring area is the project description. The proposal, we'll be looking to see whether or not the proposal meets the intent and needs identified in the proposed project. That's the proposal thoroughly addresses the issue that I described, and it applies research-based practices, either promising or best practices in the design and implementation. The next area to be scored is the state plan itself. Does the proposal meet or advance the state plan's goals or objectives, including activities in advocacy, systems change, or capacity building? The state plan is our guide and our contract with the federal government for what we provide. That's our guiding document. So anything that you produce and propose to us, we need to make sure it fits within that state plan. We've already identified the topic areas. So if you bid within those topic areas, you're going to be okay. But look at the next piece. It needs to be around advocacy, systems change, or capacity building. Those are keys to making sure it's compliant with our state plan. The next scoring area is the target population. We're looking to make sure the proposal clearly and appropriately identifies who it targets to serve. The next scoring area is evaluation and reporting. The proposal provides a clear and sound evaluation plan, which includes data collection, program assessment, and outcome analysis as part of its bi-monthly and final reporting process. Next scoring area is the deliverables or the outputs. We'll be scoring as to whether or not the proposal describes specific deliverables that'll be provided at the end of the project. So for example, curriculum, materials, toolkits, resources. Next is the methodology. We'll be scoring how clearly the proposal identifies its methods to achieve intended outcomes. The next scoring area itself is outcomes. We'll be looking to see whether or not the outcomes are designed to clearly identify, measure, and explain how it'll meet the intent of the proposed project. Next area is impact. Is the proposal designed to impact and change lives in meaningful, significant, or sustainable ways? For example, is the proposal going to address an important need in the community? Next area that we'll score is diversity, disparities. Does the proposal identify how it will address or impact historically underserved or other underrepresented, marginalized, diverse communities? This could be ethnically, racially, culturally, linguistically, or economically, etc. Next, the budget. Does the proposed budget meet the requirements of the RFP? And is the proposal detailed and reasonable to accomplish all elements of the proposal? Next area we'll score is knowledge and experience. The proposer has demonstrated experience, knowledge, and potential to accomplish all elements of the proposal. Next area we'll score is innovation and creativity. Does the proposal identify and apply innovative and promising practices in its design and implementation and builds on evidence-based practices? The final area that is the final area we'll score, but there's a minimum score. Every proposal has to meet a minimum score of 75% to be considered for an award of a grant contract. But before you get there, before we're able to score the content and quality and the ideas, each proposal has to get through an administrative review. The administrative review is making sure that the proposal has key elements that are needed. If the proposal does not have the key elements, they're disqualified and the scoring committee will not see the content of the ideas. So let me tell you what the administrative review covers. First is a cover letter. Next is a project data sheet. Next is a project narrative. Next is a budget detail worksheet. Next, and then other required attachments. Let me go back and give you some more detail about that. The cover sheet and the project data sheet are forms that we provide to you so you can fill them out. The project narrative, this includes a methodology. So in the methodology, please refer to Exhibit A. The outcomes, the project narrative also includes the outcome measures and evaluation. And there's an exhibit for that too, Exhibit B. Exhibit A. Exhibit A includes federally identified poverty areas. They need to have a 25% match from any bidder is required for non-poverty areas, and a 15% match is required for poverty areas. The match from bidders may be in kind, or it could be funding. If the area that you are targeting to serve, so let me explain this a little bit more. If the area that you're targeting to serve has a 25% or higher rate, you'll need a 15% match. If you're planning to serve more than one county, add the counties you plan on serving together and divide by the number of counties to obtain the average percentage of poverty to determine your match responsibility. Also contained under this project narrative is Exhibit B, which is the performance measures. The performance measures are used when determining outcome measurements and evaluation of your proposal. So for example, if a proposal was providing a training to self-advocates and family advocates, the proposed outcome would identify how many self-advocates you intended to serve by a code that is explained in the performance measures. In this particular one, that code is IFA 1.1. And the description of that code is the number of people with developmental disabilities who participated. Here's another example of how those performance measures work. If the training was aimed at serving family members, then the code would be IFA 1.2. The description for that code is the number of family members who participated. Another example, I'm going to give you a few more. If your proposal aims to train professionals, then you'd use the code SC 1.4.1. If your proposal is intending to create or change policy or procedures, you'd use SC 1.1.1. If your proposal intends to create or change statute or regulation, you'd use SC 1.2.1. Those are common areas we see for grant ideas. So that's an example of how to use Exhibit B around performance measures. So that's the project narrative. That'll be included in the administrative review. The next item is the budget detail worksheet. This is a form that we provide you, but please check to ensure that your numbers match up. If the math is wrong, if they don't tie to the project data sheet, then the proposal may be disqualified through an administrative review. The last item includes other required attachments. So under this, you got to make sure you have your proposal checklist. Please include your organizational chart. Please include information about the personnel who'll be working on the grant. Please let us know if there are any previous grants or awards you've done. And also please provide 3 letters of support. So these letters of support could be a memorandum of understanding or a letter of commitment if needed. So if you're planning on partnering with another entity, please provide documentation from that entity that they are part of this program and they're committed to it. Also, if you need if you are an organization that has a governing board and that governing board needs to provide approval for this proposal or this work, please provide documentation of the governing board's approval. Okay, now here's what you can expect. I've gone into the details. Let me back out to timeline. Proposals will go through an administrative review to ensure that all necessary documents are included. Formatting is correct. The number submitted is correct. And the checklist has been completed. One moment, let me get clarification. Just clarifying that under the administrative review, when it says the number submitted is correct, that means that your budget numbers are correct. So again, reinforcing how important it is that the budgets are accurate. Then the proposals that make it through the administrative review will go to the scoring panel, which will make its recommendation to the State Plan Committee in June of 2022. The State Plan Committee will then make its recommendation to the full council on July 27th, 2022. After that happens, public notice will be on July 27th as to which proposals were funded. That date also begins the protest period. Protest period goes from July 27th through August 7th. And then after that, the official award notification will be made on August 8th, 2022. So that's a lot of information. It's very technical. Let me give you some tips to help avoid common mistakes. One, please read the entire RFP. 2, double check your eligibility requirements. 3, follow the format guidelines. 4, use the proposed checklist to ensure that you have all required components to submit the RFP. Next, mail your proposal in early to avoid missing the May 17th, 5 p.m. hard deadline. Keep in mind that the proposals are coming to our headquarters office in Sacramento and must be received by that deadline. They can be mailed or they can be hand delivered. Next, be sure you're proposing a program that's consistent with the mission of the State Council on Developmental Disabilities. Next tip to avoid common errors, be sure you're addressing each of the areas in the criteria for evaluation. That you define clearly the outcomes for your proposals and how they meet the needs identified in the project description and fit with the state plan. In addition, ensure that you have identified how you will measure success and that you've addressed all of the required components of the RFP. Next, please proofread their proposals before submitting in case you may make errors like I just made, but you'll catch them when you proofread. Remember that the people scoring the proposal can only score based on what you've written. Last tip, keep checking back on the council website for updates, answers to ongoing questions until April 30th. So at this point, that is the description of the information about the Cycle 45 grant proposal. I'll now move into Q&A, and I'm going to confirm at this point whether I'm moving directly to phone Q&A or pre-asked questions. One moment, please. So each time we do this grant cycle, we collect questions and give answers that can be used in future grant cycles. So many of those questions have been asked by smart people and have been answered by smart people. And I'm holding up, I don't know if the screen filter will catch it, but on our website is a page, a document that is SCDD Program Development Grants, Questions and Answers. From this, there are 21 questions that we've collected over the years that are, apply to this cycle. So please feel free to refer to this Q&A, which is already posted. We received one question already, and the question was, can a vendor apply? Can they apply to and receive funding from more than one regional office? The answer to that is yes. So at this point, I'd like to unmute the lines, and I'm going to go north to south in those regions that we talked about and see if there are any questions. I am looking to make sure we have just about 15 minutes for that. So that almost gives us about a minute per region. We'll see what we can do. We'll do our best. Of course, if we run out of time on this call, you can always check that Q&A that's already published and also submit any questions in writing. So opening up the phone lines, confirming that they're open. Any questions from people looking for projects in Del Norte, Humboldt, Mendocino, or Lake counties? That's our North Coast region. Any questions from the North Coast region? Confirming with the team, how would you like people to indicate that they have a question? Should they raise their hand? Yes, okay, raise your hand. Not seeing any, make sure I have all of my tools up. Okay, not seeing any hands raised from the North Coast region. Thank you, North Coast. Moving on to the North State region. Anyone for looking for projects in Butte, Tehama, Plumas, Lassen, Glenn, Modoc, Shasta,
Oh, we apologize. I believe we're having some technical difficulties. So I'm sure Aaron will join us again soon. I just wanted to let everyone know, if any of you are having difficulty accessing any of the documents, you know, if you're not able to download them, please go ahead and email Christy, and I'll put her email address in the chat so that we can email you a copy of those documents. Aaron will be joining us soon. I know we were, I believe, in the North State region. Is there anyone who has questions from the North State region? Okay. And we will be posting the recording on the website later this week. So by Wednesday or Thursday, this should be posted on the website, as well as whatever questions are asked. We'll be updating the question and answer document as well. I also want to provide an update to, so the July 20, I believe it was July 27th that was mentioned. There was a change that was just made to that council date. So it is going to be July 26th. It's a Tuesday. That change was just made like a few days ago. So we will be updating that on the website as well. Right, so I guess I'm going to go ahead and see this Sacramento area region. Is there anybody with questions from the Sacramento region? That would be, let me pull up the counties. Alpine, El Dorado, Nevada, Placer, Sacramento, Sutter, Yolo, and Yuba. Any questions from that region? Yes, let me put in Christy's email address. Mary, do you have a question?
Hi, thank you. Do I ask it verbally or put it in the chat?
Either way works.
Okay, so just a quick question. I noticed somebody up in San Francisco was asking about, were they only limited? That's absolutely a hard and fast rule. No housing funding, just only the health and safety, right? Because there is a desperate problem in Yolo County, and we are having a lot of discussions with our government, and there is actually discussion about where can we get funding for a certain housing related project in this timeline. And so that's absolutely hard and fast, no housing, no way to apply for anything for housing.
With there are two regions, I believe, that have they have two different project descriptions. So Sacramento and Bay Area. So Sacramento does have for housing and health and safety, they have two RFPs out. So you could apply to either the housing or the health and safety.
Just double checking on that. Okay, great.
Yeah. So I apologize if the script that was prepared for Aaron didn't
just double checking. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Rehana, thank you so much for covering. I'm glad everybody was able to keep making progress. I'm back on, and given time, just raise your hand if you have a question. Michelle Rogers, it looks like you're clapping rather than raising your hand. Is that correct?
No, I was raising my hand. Sorry. I'm
all right. You got it.
To all of these, right? I have a quick question. So for the North Bay early intervention, one of the things in the RFP is develop a checklist, etc. There are so many child find new milestone checklists and stuff out. Can we integrate what's already out there and what DDS is using? Or does it have to be novel?
Or does it have to be what?
Novel, new.
Novel, new. Our approach regarding new and innovative practices are something that is a best practice, a promising practice. So it does not have to be created whole cloth and brand new.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Michelle, also look over that description again, because I think a checklist was an example of what could be produced under the idea, but I don't know that it's a necessary element of it.
Okay. Yeah, I think most of it's training and et cetera, but there's a couple of work groups at DDS working on this. So I don't want to invent something that they're not going to take wholeheartedly across the state.
Agree. And the goals of our projects are to create something useful and it's needed to fill in gaps. So if you find ways to build upon what already exists, that would be an interesting idea.
Sure. Thanks.
Thank you. Jay Hernandez.
Hi, thanks. It's Jenny.
Jenny.
Hi. You mentioned that for the Bay Area region, there would be two focuses. I know you talked about employment, and then someone mentioned something about health and safety. Could you speak a little bit more about what exactly is being looked for within the health and safety umbrella?
Rehana, can you describe more about the two different ideas within the Bay Area?
Yeah, just give me a quick second. So hold on. So we have the employment. So the employment one is, it says the State Council on Developmental Disabilities is invested in ensuring that all California job seekers with intellectual or developmental disabilities have an opportunity to access quality and individualized employment discovery, preparation, placement, and support. SCDD is seeking a culturally, ethnically, linguistically competent entity to develop, provide curriculum, resources, trainings, and skill acquisition and job placement opportunities that address job seekers with IDD experiencing underemployment, unemployment, and/or pandemic-related layoff. And so the full description is on the website. And then let me just give a quick synopsis on the other one. That is a health and safety focus. And on this one, the State Council on Developmental Disabilities is invested in ensuring that all California families and individuals with IDD engage safely and effectively with law enforcement and other first responders within home and/or community-based environments. SCDD acknowledges that individuals, families with IDD have experienced adverse interactions and service barriers in regard to public safety and emergency response personnel, and would benefit from structured opportunities for individuals to interact and spend time with, ask questions of, and have discussions with first responders throughout the 5-county catchment area served by SCDD Bay Area Regional Office. So we're looking for a culturally, ethnically, linguistically competent entity to develop, provide curriculum, resources, training, skill acquisition, and opportunities for participant preparation and practice in order to effectively interact, communicate with first responders. And again, there's more details on the website as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. So the safety one is law enforcement, first responder interaction. The other one's employment supports. Other questions? If you're thinking it, someone else is thinking it too. So if you ask it, it's going to help everybody. Please feel free to ask any questions. The question in the chat is, what's the maximum amount that can be requested for the grant? The maximum amount is $20,000 per region, and there are 12 regions. Rayhana helpfully put in the chat, if you're having any issues accessing the documents from our website or have further questions after today's session, please email Christy Allensworth directly and she can provide you the documents that you need or help get questions answered for you. Her email address is in the chat. Next question in the chat, if the region has 2 RFPs, can you receive up to $20,000 each? That's a great question, Emily. The answer is no, it's $20,000 per region, even if there are 2 possible ideas or target projects for that area. So if it's employment and interactions with law enforcement in the Bay Area, there still will only be a total of $20,000 for ideas for that region. Tricia asks, in regions with several distinct metro areas, how is that divided? Tricia, can you come on? Can you explain more? Tricia, I see that you're speaking. I see your mute is off, but unfortunately can't hear you.
Is that better?
That's better. There we go.
Okay. So I'm in the Central Coast region where you have Santa Clara, which of course has San Jose, and then you have Monterey County, which has Salinas, and then it stretches all the way down to San Benito County. There probably aren't even very many organizations that deal with all of those very distinct areas. We all even have different TV stations. They're very separate from each other. So how does that work with that all being one area with one RFP?
The Central Coast region does have an amazing diversity and variety of metro areas and rural areas and farming areas. And for a region, you do not have to propose a proposal that serves the entire region, so all the counties. You just want to make sure that you're proposing something for an area within at least one of those counties. So you could pick something for Oxnard-based farm workers. You could pick something for Santa Clara-based families. You could pick something for Spanish-speaking families in the Salinas area. So as long as you've got a defined specific area within one of those counties, then that will work. Or if you're very creative and you have something that will serve everybody with the entire region, that's great too. Thanks, Tricia. Sad says, I came in a little late and cannot see Christy Allensworth email. If you could put in the chat again, please do. Rehana, you did that. Thank you so much. One last call for questions. Sarah says, thank you, it was helpful. Erica says, thanks everyone, take care. Let me confirm one last thing. Last moment for questions. Okay, without seeing any other questions, the final reminder is that we have to receive your proposals by May 17th at 5 p.m. So postmarks don't matter. If you're using regular USPS, you want to make sure that you mail it well in advance so that it arrives here. If you're using FedEx, you want to make sure it arrives here. If you're delivering in person, we have to have it in hand, 5 p.m. May 17th. And with that, I will thank you for your interest. We're so grateful that these dollars exist. They're very rare dollars. They're unique dollars in the system. They're dollars to come up with something new, something innovative, something best practices, something that fills a gap, something that weaves together what is already out there. And there's so little of that in our system, but so much need for it. From these projects, these are the seeds of creativity and exciting ideas. And there's so many things that exist now that came out of these little seed projects. So I'm grateful that you are all here. I'm grateful for your interest, and I'm really excited to see your exciting ideas. So thank you so much. Look forward to reading the proposals, and I read all the proposals. I'm part of the scoring. I lead the scoring team. And with that, we will talk to you soon. So thank you so much. Bye, everybody.